so we're going to do another video today. We're doing the clutch slave cylinder because that needs doing and that's leaking, so we're going to get on with that today. I'm going to put the camera up like we did last week and do it on sort of one of those hyperlapse so it's a bit quicker, and that seems to work well. So I've got that to do from, as I've said, from Jack Service Parts, so that's going to be going on. And then do spark plugs, a few other bits. There's some other stuff that I need to get done which we're not going to do today. I've got the bit to do at gear link, which is going to be cool, which I'll show you with the bushing. Me and Phil are both going to do that, so got that to sort. I've got to do a bit of remapping when it's back together, so I'll do a little video when we sort that out because we've changed the cam timing and just a quick check over. So there's that still to do. I might get time to do a bit with the rocker cover and the coil packs before we go to Cadwell in March. I'll try and get that done, and the exhaust manifold again. If I've got time I'll do it, but we have got some other stuff to do. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. Thanks for tuning in, enjoy it. So I've had a problem with the clutch slave cylinder leaking from the bottom. It's done quite a bit of time now. They're not particularly brilliant, these. They don't last too long and it gets sat a lot, so there's a bit of clutch fluid. You can actually see a bit down the back, and pedal weren't great, so I'm going to change that today. So thanks to Jack Service Parts, give me no discount, that's awesome. So got this to fit today, so standard thing. So there's that to fit, and the clutch to bleed up, so I'll go through that today. Phil's going to give me an hand again, so I've got that to do. I've got some spark plugs to fit as well, so I'm going to get that done. That's not exactly exciting. What is exciting, or shall I rephrase that to disappointing, is this one is missing the top, which is absolutely awesome. So I've contacted them, so I need one of them. So yeah, boxes weren't damaged or anything, so that would be disappointing. So yeah, I'm using Denso's this time. Everybody has their own, like, sort of opinion really on what plugs are best. I've had everything in this over the years. You know, NGK coppers always work well, but they need changing quite often, but they do work bang on. Iridium sometimes at high boost were a little bit better because the tip's extremely, fine. But yeah, plugs are plugs to me. As long as they're clean, you change them often and they're the right heat range, it doesn't matter. These are a 22, which is the same as like a number 7 if you work in NGKs. These engines in standard trim are a 6 if it's not on a Type R version. Type R ones are more compression run 7s, or in this case 22s instead of 20s. And then if you're high boost, once you get over sort of 400 horsepower, them used to go up to a number 8 plug or an IK24. So that's that. Yeah, so we'll change these today. We're only an A now, so number 7s are perfectly adequate for this. It's about 10.5 to 1 compression at minute this, so we'll do that, get those in. Magic tappets as well. So yeah, that's what we're going to get on with. These are what they are. They are Denso Iridium Power, and they add 500 horsepower per cylinder. So yeah, that's these ones. No, they don't really, but yeah, this is what I'm going to run. I don't really care what plugs I run really. I've had good results with, like I say, NGKs, these, whatever. Like I say, main thing is that they're clean and they're the right heat range. You don't have to gap these down, which is awesome. So again, gapping plugs down makes a big difference. Standard, these are like 1.1 sort of mil if they're on sort of copper plugs or whatever. These are about I think they're about 0.6 mil, 0.7s. These are normally gap 2. If you turbo, you can have some really good results gapping down to about 0.6 millimeters, especially if you're on the old Dizzy and you're blowing the spark out. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that now, but that's something to always consider as well. Just gapping them down a little bit can really help if your ignition system's struggling a bit. Okay, cool. Do gap them down. Be very, very careful with these iridium tips because they're extremely thin. So when you've got your feeler gauge in there, if you're not careful, you'll damage the tips. I tend to just find a surface and really just use the weight of the plug as you sort of tap them to gap them down, and just be really, really slow and steady with these ones. With a copper plug, oops, excuse me, with focus, you can really send it. But with these, you've got to be really careful. And then obviously just put your feeler gauge or whatever you use inside there. So it just holds on with 2 bolts onto the side of gearbox on these. So this is the unit. Obviously brake fluid, most of you all know, but just in case you don't when you're a hobbyist learning, like what most of us are, brake fluid, clutch fluid, you know, .345, whatever you're using. It's really bad for paintwork, so you don't want it on your paint, so be careful where you get it. It's okay if you spill it on, you clean it off straight away with brake cleaner or warm soapy water, but if you leave it on, it will actually rot your paint and strip your paint, so don't do that. So again, obviously you don't really want it on your hands or, you know, in your eyes. But so we're going to change this. This is on a braided line, so I don't know how many of you've changed them, but that is a really good thing to upgrade on these actually. It makes the pedal a little bit firmer, just like it does with your brakes, and does make the clutch activate a bit quicker, which can be quite handy when you know, revving things quite high and you've got like carbon synchros and stuff. It stops a bit of clutch drag, so it's a good upgrade just doing the flexi, whether you go all the way from the, you know, the cylinder at the top on there, that obviously feeds down to the mass cylinder on the bulkhead. This one goes from all the way from there around, so you can either do that, or there's a short one that they do that sort of goes on the rubber on top of the gearbox. But whichever one you do, if you upgrade to you know, to like a braided stainless one, it does make a big difference. So we'll go ahead and change that now, get this swapped over. I want it up high because then obviously the oxygen bubbles will stay at the top, so it's easier to bleed up. We'll do like a partial bleed with nipple undone here, and then we'll put it back on the box and bleed that up afterwards. And then clutch free play is worth discussing as well on the pedal, so we'll look at that as well, you know, at the same time and get that done. Bill's here hiding, look in the background. Yes, your free play is basically for thermal expansion, so that's on the pedal with like a 12mm nut, so we'll look at that as well afterwards. But that is worth checking. There's loads of cars where the bite point's not in a nice place. MB6s used to be really bad for it actually. When you've changed this and put a new one on, it's always worth just double checking that and making sure that's right, so I'll go through that with you as well today. Okay, so I'll get this changed. This one's on a braided one, so it's only 30mm. I'm going to leave that fitting on to the actual unit itself and just spin the unit off. I think it's going to be less messy, so obviously just crack that off over a container. We've got it over here, then you can just rotate it around like that, and then that unit will come off. No pressure in there or anything, and that'll sort of just sit at the top. There's nothing even coming out there. I've got a cloth if I need it. So that's the old unit off. So if you come over here, Phil, so you can see better. So obviously there's a little hydraulic cylinder here which pushes this little rod out, which pushes onto your, you know, your release fork in your gearbox. But you can see in here, look, it's absolutely full. Whoop, there we go, the fluid, and that shouldn't be in there. So that's actually gone inside that unit. So the seal's failed inside here. And it'll still work, but all your time you're losing that and air's going near then, so you're getting a spongy pedal and it's going to start damaging the gearbox when the synchro's out. So yeah, so that we're well ready for changing. It has had a couple of new ones over its life, this, so I'm just going to mop some of that fluid off. So we'll get that changed. So it was well ready, So yeah, so there we go. So you don't have to do it, but I'm going to put, here's a tapered fitting like, but I'm going to put a bit of PTFE on that just before it goes into this unit. And then we'll bleed it up, so make sure it's the right one. Should be, but always just confirm, you know, that it looks correct, you know, which it does, and that your whole centres line up, etc. before you start fitting it, so you won't be able to send it back. But that's the correct one, so that's that. Cylinder's the right length and everything. So yeah, so it should have been nice and dry inside there, so that's not ideal. So anyway, we'll get that fitted. So I've got a nice new bleed nipple on the end. So want some PTFE around that fitting. Give that a wipe. So we don't want loads of this on, so I'm just going to get a clean bit on the end. It's got a bit of dirt on that way. End off. So we need to wind the PTFE on, so that when we turn the unit back on, it doesn't sort of undo the PTFE. So if I go that way around, obviously I'm going to go that way when I put the cylinder back on, so my tail needs to end in that direction. So if I go that way, I need to finish in the right direction. So I'm going to just put that on there, and I don't want loads on. So we are cheap bleeding a little bit. So we're going to use this syringe here and basically use it as a vacuum. So we're going to pull some fluid through just to get rid of most of the air, and obviously just tap it up. We're using just Pagid .4, it's fine for these, so again, just don't get on paint or anything. Rather than pump the pedal initially, we've got this onto the nipple, just undone it, and you just use the suction, thanks Phil, on here, and obviously then that will pull most of the air out of that cylinder itself and then get fluid into there. So that's what we've done. So now we've got fluid up to the cylinder and filled most of that, topped the reservoir back up, So that's what we've done. So what we're ready to do now is pump the pedal instead. So that's what we're going to do next. And then once all the air bubbles have gone and that's running clear, then obviously that's okay, and then we'll check the pedals nice and firm. Right, just press pedal down gently. Let me know when it hits the floor.
There.
Okay, lift pedal back up. Phil's just nipping bolts up now down the bottom. Ratchet spanner helps here. Obviously it's important that you get both those bolts started before obviously you start wanging them in. It's only aluminium into gearbox, you've got to be gentle. They don't need to be mega tight, they're only like 20 Newton meters, so that's that. And then obviously we're going to give it a bit of final bleed now it's on. So that's in, so that's good. Like we said, we've used .4. Obviously when you've done, make sure that your reservoir's at correct level and what have you, so before you finish and put top on. Obviously if you let that level drop down as you're bleeding it up, it'll pull air into the system, which you don't want, so it's important that you keep an eye on that, so if you're doing brakes or anything. So that vac method we used worked quite well actually, and obviously with it being at the top, the air was at the top, so it made it a lot faster to bleed up, so we're pretty chuffed with that. So we are cheat bleeding a little bit. So we're going to use this syringe here and basically use it as a vacuum. So we're going to pull some fluid through just to get rid of most of the air, and obviously just tap it up. We're using just Pagid .4, it's fine for these, so again just don't get on paint or anything. Rather than pump the pedal initially, we've got this onto the nipple, just undone it, and you just use the suction, thanks Phil, on here, and obviously then that will pull most of the air out of that cylinder itself and then get fluid into there. So that's what we've done. So now we've got fluid up to the cylinder and filled most of that, topped the reservoir back up, so that's what we've done. So what we're ready to do now is pump the pedal instead. So that's what we're going to do next. And then once all the air bubbles have gone and that's running clear, then obviously that's okay, and then we'll check the pedals nice and firm. Next bit we want to do is obviously just check it works properly. So I've got Phil in car now, so we'll make sure that's working. Obviously if you, Phil, just work with the pedal. So you can see obviously that release lever's come out and back in, so that's working nice. Just doing the first few mil of the pedal. You can see that on off, just do it on and off, first couple of mil. So you can see that's moving. So if there's air in there, that wouldn't happen. You'd have a delay before it moves. So your pedal would be going down in the car, but that clutch release fork won't be moving, and that's a problem because that then will, you know, potentially wear the sinkers out in the gearbox and cause drag. It just don't feel very nice. We don't want that. So that's all working, you know, working nicely. So just make sure Phil's happy. So how's it going in there?
Perfect.
Feel all right?
Spot on, yes, thank you.
Does it feel like to be in a proper vehicle?
Amazing, amazing.
So he's just in there, so that's all nice now. So poor lad's had to crawl right over into there. Fun of having like a single garage, obviously. So there we go. Obviously we've got some room, but it's not ideal sometimes. But then I can't really complain because it's carpeted and stuff, so should be grateful, I suppose. So there we go. So that's that. So that's that first job done. A little bit bad. I've sent Phil under the car now, so the next thing we're doing is we're looking at doing the shifter bushes. So, but not the normal ones, the actual bushes that the ball mechanism for the ITR shifter sits on. So he's on with that. Currently hiding under there, and he's taking the gear lever out inside there. So he's on with that at the moment. So I got these the other day. So you get the little plastic nylon sort of or PTFE bush and the rubber bits that go through the gear lever itself. So I think that's the next bit we're going to do, which should be pretty cool. And that's supposed to tighten them up a lot. So yeah, let's take your gear linkage off and then that's what we're going to do. So we've now gone underneath and took the gear linkage off. Well, Phil has. Thanks, Phil.
No worries.
So underneath here there's two little 10mm once you've got it off. A lot of people replace this one and that one on the end, which does help, but we've got a bit of problem with the unit inside here. So what you get in the kit is you get the rubber boots and this plastic like PTFE one, which is a bit like your knee joint with a ball and socket, which is in the base of here, and we think that's half the problem, and you just get a bit of headache in knees. So that should you know, should be a nice thing to do. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. It should be good. Or Philip is. No, they're coming off. The captive.
Spin, yeah, it's the spin.
Ah, it's interesting. Okay, let's have a look then. So obviously when you're moving these, they're captives, but they've got like a little square slot in them, so you've got to maintain pressure down onto the top of there, or they'll spin. So you just have to keep those pressed down, and then obviously you can't do them, so just be careful of that. So as you can see on there, let me get to focus, little square, very, very shallow, so you might just get a bit of pair of morgats on the top just to steady it while you're doing. So once they're undone, that unit comes down through there, and then we're into that assembly now. Then if you slide that boot down, it's on there, you can see some ever so slight wear in that titanium ball or whatever it is, not bad. No. I think it's titanium, it might be just alloy to be fair, it's not that heavy. It's certainly not steel, I don't think. It could be, but it feels quite light, but unless it's tubular. But anyway, might be steel. There's that bush in the bottom which I'll check as well, so we'll go look at that now. We are going for the good old Vaseline. That's what we're going for. A lot of Yanks reckon Vaseline's some of the best stuff for this, so we don't want to use copper tip out. Lithium grease is going to attack the rubber boot, so that's what I'm going with. See what happens. Excellent. So got that on. So this boot now has to go back over the top, which can laugh at me trying to get this back on now. It's probably going to be a bit of a challenge, I like to get back over, but let's have a go. See how we get on. It's like anything in it, they always come off easier than what they go on. I suppose my other option actually is to push that down into there. Just put the boot over the cage. I might do get a little screwdriver. Yep. So I've got that in there, and then a little lip to pull over. I can't remember if there was or not. I think there is. There's a little lip under here, I think I have to, yeah, gently work around over the top. And that should be that unit. Clean some of the excess off there. And then that goes back into the shifter unit, hopefully. So that goes back up into here, like so. And then that plate, which goes that way, there's a bit of an offset in it. And I think that was over the rubber, was it not? Yeah,
it was there.
Wasn't it? So then got to get that slowly back through there as well. Again, just be careful whatever you use, you don't damage the rubber. It's going in it. Half on. That bit there. Gently work it through. That's it. So it's on there like that. That now goes back in there, and the plate sits over the top. That's the one. Should be it, I think. Looks alright. It's certainly no worse. Feels really smooth. Yeah. Bolt it up, see what happens. Cool. Hello, Philip. Hello, Philip. Are you having fun under there?
Yes, always.
So just put your gear linkage back on. Having a lovely time under there. Bless him. At least it's carpeted, my man.
Yep.
Yep. So took plugs out. So they're out now. This engine's tired. It's done 7-8 years now, turbocharged. It's a CSS B18. It had Wiseco pistons, power engineering, billet rods, things like ITR crank. But it's tired. It's probably done, it's done a lot of hours, but probably equivalent to like 40,000 miles at 500 horsepower. So it's worn. But I was just sort of seeing the year out with it. But yeah, if you look at these plugs, you can see, like, obviously cylinder 3 is ready, so there's a lot of oil deposits on the plug. It doesn't smoke or anything, but you know, it's on borrowed time, hence why we're doing the B20 like. So I'll let you have a look at that. So as you can see here, let's get it to focus in. Excuse me, come on. Come on, you gonna focus or not? Yeah, let me move over here. There we go. Look. Right, so there's a lot of oil fouling on that plug and carbon deposits. It's interesting because it doesn't really smoke, but you can see how bad that is. So yeah, it's on borrowed time, but we know that with this engine. So get some fresh plugs in it. It'll see next few months out, and then we'll get it swapped over to B20. But she's dying slowly, isn't she? Bless her. So one other thing we want to do is it's a bit rich on cold start. So this is on Link G4 this. So we've got this table here. So that's for your warm up enrichment. So the car's active at the minute, so you can see it's in the green box there. So at the moment it's adding, because we're at 10 degrees C, like 15%. So just move that over here so you can see it a bit better. Just unlock it. Move that here so you can see it at the moment because it's quite small. It's about that bigger. There we go, so you can see. So currently obviously it's sat there at the moment because we're not in vacuum, and it's about 50.5%. When the engine's running it'll be down into here because it'll pull vacuum when the throttle's not shut. So we'll be down in these bottom sort of columns here. So we'll be down this sort of area down here really. So we've got like 17% in there, look. I think that's too much down here, so I'm just going to pull that down a bit. So I'm just going to take that down a little bit, look, in there, pull a bit out. And then that one's probably too much as well, so just pull that one down as well, down to about there, and then obviously see if that's a bit better. It might still be a bit much at that sort of percentage, but those two there, again, take them down a bit, in there, and down to, excuse me, and obviously it does start to sort itself out once it's warmed up a bit, so we'll try that and see what it's like now. So just make sure it should be live anyway, but I always send it up to the ECU as well. So you just Control and S as you hyperlink on here, but it's just there, look. So perform in store, so that's now gone in. Obviously you can see they're unhighlighted. So if I run it up now, I'm not going to run it for too long, so I'm going to choke this one out, but we'll be able to see then, and I'll have a look on the wideband what it's like. So to be fair, we can go on. Tune in here, I think it is. There you go. So we've got it here, so you can see air fuel sort of on this side and what have you. So let's see what that looks like. It's annoying on this because you can look at me if you want. When you're trying to do this, customers sometimes don't really understand why it takes ages, because once the car starts to warm up, you don't know if the initial cold start was is okay or not. So you've got to wait again, let it cool down, then go again. So cold start can take quite a while to get dialed in actually, just because it's finicky, because the engine's got to be stone cold. And then if it's in the summer, it's difficult because you've got to predict, because you won't achieve these temperatures we've got now. So it's like, in this garage it's probably about 10-15 degrees at the minute, and outside you're going to be 0 or 5 degrees. So if you don't get it right, then it fouls the plugs, they cough, they splutter, or they're a bit lean, whatever. So it's really important, when you're doing ECU calibration, to make sure you try and get as much as possible correct. So anyway, even though I've mapped this loads of times on the Link, it's still not perfect. It's not been as cold as this. So in the summer it was starting sort of 20-25 degree water temp. So yeah, it's a good opportunity actually while it's freezing. Excuse me. Just fire the car up and have a look. So all right, cool. Now that's better, so we're in 13s now, as it was a lot richer before. You can see it's reading from there, look, so that's much better than what it was. Over there, so it's enjoying that at the moment. We could probably still pull a bit out though, to be fair, so I'm going to globally pull that down a bit. I think we can still take a bit out, store that. Probably still go a bit everywhere, so let's go down from here. Take another percent out, store that. Not too bad. Still a bit, I think. go. And then I'll save that now in here as well. I always do a save, so we'll save that file as Lulu. We'll call it Feb 26 at the moment, and save that, and then we've got it as a backup. So there we go. So yeah, there we go. It's a bit of cold start done as well, which is cool. It doesn't smell half as bad actually. Usually it's really black, so that's made a big difference. And we don't want to ruin those new plugs and foul those, so that's good. Cool. Thanks, Phil. So that sort of wraps up today. Thanks again to Phil for coming over and giving me a hand. He's loving it, so he's gone underneath and done all the sort of naff jobs today. So really appreciative of that. I hope you've enjoyed some of the stuff we've done. Tried to show you a bit with laptop and stuff, doing cold start. Again, when I go out and do some mapping, I'll probably try and film some of that so you can have a look. It's always good to learn, isn't it? I started obviously not really knowing what I'm doing. Worked with Ricky at Race Tech and stuff, and he sort of taught me to map, and I picked it up from him. And then you pass that on to other people. That's what it's about. So got them plugs in, got that clutch cylinder done now. Gear link is done. That seems to have improved, and it's been worth doing. And something we're going to do on Phil's car as well. So next sort of thing really is rocker cover and breathers. I'd like to get done before Cadwell, and some sort of coil pack, sort of tie down. If anybody's got one K20 coil spare, let me know. But I'm going to see, is it TJM Parts tomorrow? So I'm going to have a look at them and get some parts. So if they've got one, actually, I'll grab one from there. But yeah, that's what wraps it up today. Thanks for joining us again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.